Welcome back, my shouldn't have. Excellent. Poor village. It's doing much better, but it still had so much to be done. With the two wonderful children, they now needed more space. But soon, very soon, one of their objectives would be completed. They now had stone to build with. They had an actual oven. They had a dining room, though perhaps not the best. A positive influx of food. All was looking far, far better than it had. And it would only continue from here. Kanisa and Shelia were quite hopeful for their children's future. Someone called, asking for aid. Bill Grapevine. Strange magics threatened, should he join. The group considered. This was a dangerous offer. But perhaps a dangerous offer would be exactly what they needed in order to shake things up, so to speak. Andriel voted yes. They could not leave someone behind like that, someone who is desperate with foul magics chasing after them. They had to do what they could. Trunka was more reserved. After all, they were struggling themselves. How could they possibly hope to help someone else when they themselves were struggling? After much debate, Camisa joined Andriel, and Sheila joined Trenka. It was Ithil in the end. Fitting, in a way, that it should come down to the speaker for the goddess Lentele, the goddess of morality. They accepted. And with it came a cold snap. The temperatures plummeting. Bill is a fleet kind. And a decent cook at that. It would be good to have another cook. Quite adept at growing as well. And while passable with a bow, he favored a more, shall we say, military mind, more melee disposition. It would take him time to get up to the level of his peers, but he would do so. They were sure of it. Besides, he was willing to work, and while he was not so good at being able to haul or do many other things that were necessary around the colony, every little bit of extra effort would be appreciated. The war horns sound, as if they hadn't had enough. Now, foxes approached. To arms, one and all. Except for Sheila. Foxes charged, but they were ready. And in mere moments, the foxes were dead. Most of them taken by the foul sickness that had driven them mad. The spirit wolves did not last long enough. But it was a start. The mining revealed Ethereum, a strange material that they were only somewhat familiar with. No matter. This would come in handy for other things, they surmised, eventually. Camisa and Trunka, much like Ithil and Shelia, were decided to be wed. It was good to finally have a little bit of good news for a change. Alshelia continued to try and figure out better ways to improve their food. Taking breaks to feed her daughter. And to meditate. So much grass is sprouting from the tree by their meditation. It bothered them. They didn't actually have a use for it. It wasn't like Ethereum. They could find a use for that. Bill found these people interesting, to say the least. As the snow continued to fall, everyone focused their efforts appropriately. Though not without their own magical abilities continuing to expand. Indeed, Trunka had learned how to see in the dark, just popping up out of nowhere. As did Alpaca. Visitors arrived with items to trade, though groups still did not have much for actual trade. Bothered them a little. But they had nothing that they could do for it. Ithel spoke with them. Selling off their squirrel hides, a turkey hide, even a tortoise hide. It wasn't much, but it did get them some silver. And yet their powers continued to grow. Kamiso worked diligently, trying to find a way to give them all of the materials that they needed and to clear out the stone chunks that they did not. In the process, she found herself able to summon fireballs. She did not know how she had this, but somehow the thought of wanton destruction and harming others did not sit well with her. She resolved to try and make sure that she could make up for it by dealing with people well. She would find a trader and trade with them, hopefully. However, the colony village, perhaps, well, more of hamlet, did discover how to cook better. This was good. But now came the next question. What else? What else? Well, they would not make the mistakes of previous villages. Previous attempts to survive. They would study better bows. Not quite elven quality yet, but soon. They also decided to build a tanning rack. But always good, or at least better. Now they had their own bedrooms, rather than just living in tents. But boredom ate away at their minds. They resolved to do something about this. Now they had a proper storehouse. Soon they would have more entertainment. And to celebrate this, they decided to go ahead and cook better meals for themselves to keep morale up. It was no easy thing, after all. The cold cut into them, the chill reminding them of their constant struggle. Trunka's skill at teleportation and moving things, so to speak, was coming in handy, improving by the day. But still the chill remained. For now, they decided to build a campfire. It had one previously, but had decided not to continue it anymore. But this was a campfire for warmth. Not enough, though. The chill still etched into their veins. With the storehouse complete, came their next task. The simple places where they sat to think were not adequate anymore. They required more. They worked diligently, mining out the mountainside. And even getting some onyx, a rare material. Itha worked in spurts. Working on the Three Stones game until his attention wavered. The others worried about that. Sheila reminded him to get back to work. Almost done. He sighed heavily. Until finally, they had something else to keep themselves occupied. A simple game, perhaps. Still a valuable one. However, their thoughts also went to the animals. Most likely starving, the poor dears. How had they not thought of this? Sky flared. Creating an odd feeling against their skin. They taught each other what they could about magic. Ithel set out to create a roofed area. So that they could put down food for the animals, who were indeed quite hungry. They had enough for themselves, after all. Even as they did so, the temperature improved, the light snow on the ground fading. Some of the wildlife took the opportunity to likewise feed upon their bounty, but for once they didn't mind. They resolved to let the campfire run its course. They had just refueled it, but it would not hurt anything. They found Bill believing in strange things. They paid it no mind. When necessary, they told Bill of their own beliefs, the sacrifices that they had made, the guilt and shame that they carried over some of the things they had previously done to survive. They felt the call of 6 refugees. That same guilt. Swelled beneath them. They quickly hurried. They would not be the best of accommodations. But they would accommodate these travelers. Their caravan destroyed these people, these poor individuals. Deserved help. And with that help would also come a place to stay. Ithel tried speaking to Bill and found Bill to be surprisingly receptive. Yes, in the past, you may have had to do things a hard way, but now is the time to repent. Now is the time for all of us to repent for everything that we have ever done wrong. This pleased the group, to have one believing such as they. They took a look at those who had come, who were already putting themselves hard to work. This was good. Helping hands made light work. Things progressed more quickly than they could have ever hoped. And so a plan was hatched. Finally, they could continue their work. No more would they squat on the floor to think amongst themselves. They would have a place to actually study. And just like that, the first place to research was built. Sheila quickly got to work. Though Bryn had cursed them, causing the sun to cause them pain, they still needed light. They were running low on certain foods. But the grasses were growing again. Meat was not a concern. Well, not yet at least. Eventually it would be. Another cold snap came. Apparently, Bill's troubles were trying to return. The goddess of winter frowned upon them again. Bill was most apologetic. But the others told him that they knew what they had gotten into. Still, prudence was a thing. And so they decided to go ahead and collect what they could. They had not been able to get to the skirmish in time. They had hoped the battle went well. But it was ultimately not their battle. More weaponry. The knowledge of more weaponry. Simple bows would not do. Only 2 people in the colony used bows. No, they would need something else. They dimly remembered from their youth how people would use various tools to smith weapons. This, they decided, would do nicely. There'd be no more grasses. Soon they would need something more. They would refuel the campfire again. Still, this was troubling. But they were getting quite the collection of goods now. They would need not worry about timber for quite some time. The components that they had would also last, not indefinitely. Nothing lasted indefinitely. But better than nothing. After giving it some thought, while they had people who were more than willing to help, there were things that they should be doing. The caves were a flurry of activity. As people worked madly to try and get everything taken care of. They did not recognize the soothing energies until they had left. Just outside their gates, somebody crashed down. Once again, unable to bear the thought of someone suffering. They quickly set to work, tending this wretched creature's wounds. They knew of these creatures, these wretches, prone to strange growths and all manner of debilitating diseases of the flesh, but occasionally great power too. Still despised by many, they felt a kinship to the wretch. And even though they had already admitted that they planned on leaving at the first available opportunity, they still felt honor-bound, almost kin-bound, to help. With the broken carts broken down, things are good. As Z made to leave, they bid Z farewell, even as her body mutated in front of them, turning into something else entirely. Ah. Even more now. Continuing their industriousness. They set about for more mining. The nearby peaceful orcs, as opposed to the raving orc band, sent a message stating that they needed help fortifying a settlement. While Bill had little in the way of instruction, he could mine, and more importantly, he could free up cooking so that others could take to the task. Having the goodwill of orcs appealed to the group, so they accepted. The orcs promised to send a sky chariot. Such a strange sky chariot. Perhaps of dwarven design. Almost like visually somebody had forgotten what such things should look like and how to modify things so that they looked appropriate. Though this did have the advantage of having one less mouth to feed. But they still felt good about themselves, knowing that they had helped another. It'd be 9 days before Bill returned, which was fine. They could survive without Bill. At least, for now. As much as Bill had been a blessing from Kala, their compassion, resulting in their favor, it was not without some degree of relief that they did not have to fret so much. They'd built another room, but not without purpose. As Ethel tried to justify their way of life to Lawman, a fight had broken out. Ithel was not badly hurt. It would not take long for him to recover. However, words of the wedding happening encouraged all to gather. It felt appropriate to hold the wedding in the hall, but they all agreed that perhaps in the future somewhere else might be better. With the wedding complete, Lawman, one of the guests, laid back down. Tronka found his magic coming easier and easier by the day. Hail came, pelting all that it came across, damaging all that it came across. Several of the animals were injured in this brief flurry of hail. An eclipse. Once upon a time, an eclipse would have been seen as an ill omen, but these days, since Bryn had taken wrath on them, they did not mind the absence of his guiding light. One of the travelers mentioned that the stash of valuables that they had heard about was no longer apparent. Though saddening, the group did not actually mind. Right now, they did not have what was needed for a quest. However, they were running low on food. Ithel moved quickly, knowing what he must do. His mighty bow quickly ended one wolf. And next he set his sights on a lynx. Though perhaps not the tastiest of prey, These would feed the group well. He paused for a bite to eat before continuing on. Another predator down. One last one to go. And, just like that, they'd cleared the land of predators. Small blessings. Though the newcomers were a little confused about what they were supposed to do with the animals. No matter. All was good. They could easily retrieve the wolf from the river, hopefully before it became too wasted. Once explained, the newcomers, the refugees that they were helping, did not mind at all. They quickly got to work. Setting up the smelter. Well, the furnace. The few animals helped. Not quite enough. They would need more. And they knew it. But they were making good progress. Kagu seemed to find themselves, even as a child, gaining this new strange magic. He saw sparks from his fingertips. And even in complete darkness, he seemed aware. Most strange, but they had found most things about their condition strange and unusual. Still, they found that the fungus was most tasty. And so decided to grow more. The newcomers did not agree nearly as much. They scoured the map. Everywhere in this land that might grow fungus, they took a look at. The refugees bid them farewell. After all, they had come because their caravan was attacked and they needed time to recover, to regain their wits. Something that the group had appreciated. But when their wits had all returned, it was time to go. As much as they wanted to continue researching how to create weapons, there were other things that demanded more attention. They thought back to their time with the refugees and smiled amongst themselves. Yes, they had done well. But as they left, more arrived. People who had one of their friends attacked by golems. In order to do so, though, in order to save their friend, they were short on medicine. It was a sad tale. And one that Camisa resolved to take care of, offering them aid. They wished them well, but worried. Ruffians were on the horizon. Dirt mole, goblins. They were familiar with the goblins. They bared them no actual ill will. But these creatures were prone to infighting, even amongst themselves. Fortunately, the beggars were able to get free. Before the enemies arrived. The group was getting hurt. And yet one remained. Their legs chopped off. By Tanka's savage assault. But that did not mean that they had to be cruel. They made a decision, perhaps not the best of decisions. A decision nonetheless. They tried to help these poor souls. The one would need some help. As soon as they were able to walk again, they would be released. Though admittedly, everywhere was not looking good here. At least the children were happy. A small blessing. Though still woozy from the herbs used on them, Ape quickly made their way off. Strange magics continued to work their will on the group. They did not pretend to understand what was going on there. They held no true ill will over their attackers. As inconveniencing as those attackers may be, there were worse things. Everyone had survived unscathed and along view of things. And that was the most important thing. Rice would soon be ready to harvest. But they had the feeling that rice would not make them happy for long. Soon they would need more. Strange lights came up in the sky. Magical energies making the sky shimmer and glow. It had been beautiful once, but now it gave a sense of longing. Longing for a past that, truly, they did not fully understand themselves. After all, they had been children. But now everyone was healed. And yet, while not what she had set out to learn initially, Sheila made a discovery. In a mad flurry, she had crafted up designs for all sorts of furniture. But while this was going on, people reported seeing an odd pod. Camisa decided to take a look. As the animals laid down to sleep, more and more animals. They found within the pod a seed. Did they dare grow it? What even was it? For now they knew not. But depending on how things went, sooner or later they may very well decide to go ahead and grow this pod. Maybe. In many ways, they considered themselves fortunate. They lived in a good area with plenty of marble around. Who could really complain about that? But they had to think ahead. The babes would not remain babes forever. And once again, found themselves running low on meat. Oh, utterly annoying. If the babes would not remain babes forever, then they had to consider the children's future. And so a small schoolhouse was set up. With the animals starving once again, it was decided that some rice would be offered up to them. There was not much in the way of plants that they could harvest out here to make up for the loss of rice. They could at least make do with just meat and hunt more. Unless they debated. They spoke with each other, and in the end, they made a hard decision. They would cull some of the stags. They hated to do so. A source of milk and wool would be good for them, but at the same time, they did what they must, even if they didn't like it. Further, to help the stags and other animals more, they cut some grasses. Tronka spoke about a dream that he had. So vivid he knew it as a fact. That nearby were some ruins, a small set of ruins, and inside were enemies. Brigands. Did they dare assault the brigands in the ruins? Surely brigands like those would have valuables. Did they dare be greedy? It was a hard decision. Bill returned. And with that also came one other decision. They would plant hay grass. Hopefully that would help the animals in the future. As they settled in for the night, they found themselves debating, hoping that Ithil, their moral compass, would guide them on what to do. But what they decided, ultimately, will come in another time. I grow weary, and we will continue this later. Take care, friends.